Hey guys, what's up? Quick video for you today. So Halloween is kind of approaching. I'm just kind of excited about it a little early and wanted to figure out kind of a really easy, super simple carving that I could do and do a little tutorial on. So with that, I came up with this little guy. It's a little ghost. Once again, nothing overly special about it, nothing complicated, super easy. And there's a ton of ghosts out there already, different tutorials and carvings. I mean, it's not that hard to figure out. But this one's a little different, as in this one has a little base carved in the bottom of it. So when you set it down, it looks like the ghost is floating. So this is a single knife, one knife only carving. And the size block I'm using is 1.5 by 1.5 by 3. The 1.5 by 1.5 is my preferred carving block size. Sometimes I do 1, sometimes I do 2-inch blocks, but really the 1.5 is my favorite. So it's 1.5 by 3. So if you don't have this size, say you have 1-inch blocks, I know those come in a lot of beginner kits, do 1 by 1 by 2 or 2.5. If you have 2-inch blocks, 2 by 2 by 4 or somewhere around there. Remember, it's a ghost, so it can be taller and skinnier, it can be shorter and fat. It doesn't really matter. It's just kind of like the size I came up with because I have these in 6-inch blocks, so I cut them in half and that gets me 2. Alright, so with all that said, I'm going to move the camera and show you how to start this guy. Alright, so once again, we have 1.5 by 1.5 by 3. So the very first thing I'm going to do is my center line. And I should say, so the factory cut end is this side. This is the side that I cut. So this is going to be my top, and that's going to be my bottom. So, my center line. Now, a trick I do on the off chance I'm off on that is I flip the block over and do it, and get you a thicker line, but you know it's centered then. I think I broke that. Now it's good. Whatever. Close enough. Now, the next step is from here to here. Cut that guy in half. All the way around. That's what we look like now. Alright, so we're going to continue these sidelines on the bottom as well. So let's make sure we're still there. Come up here, there, 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 and there. So that gets us this inside square. That's actually going to be our base that the guy sits on. Alright, so that same distance that we did on these sides, we're going to do across, this is the bottom, I'm sorry. Yeah, this is the bottom, so all across the bottom. More or less there. Alright, next, so we're going to go, and see, that's one of the things about this, there's no real measuring. You know, so if you have different size blocks, you can still use this little like line technique that I do with just about anything. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is from this line to the bottom. Once again, this is our base, this is our bottom. So from this line to the bottom, we're going to cut that in half. As you can see, this line's a little off, but that doesn't matter. It'll get fixed later. There we go. That's what we look like so far. Alright, last little bit. If you have, we have to decide which corner is going to be like the top swoop little part. So when I cut these, if for some reason it ends up being uneven and one side sticks up a little farther, that's the side I go with, but this one's pretty even. Maybe that one's a little hair a little bigger. So up there, and we're going to go from here, from the middle, and around. And really, we should be a little lower than what that line is. So we got that, so I'm just going to draw another one in. Because that way I know, see, this line is the line we used for everything else, but I know I want the hat part just a little lower than what that is. So guideline line, yeah, and then that. So the next part is you have to make sure your knife is sharp. This is a Helvy blank that I made a handle for. So, but like I said, it's an easy carving, so just about any knife will work. This is just the one that I happen to carve most with at home. So, should already be pretty sharp. Could use maybe just a little touch up. So remember, you put your knife flat, you can see it. Flat, drag, stop. Flip, drag, stop. And with this being a thin, flat grind knife, it's like pretty much flat. I tend to make it just a little lift, but hardly noticeable at all. Stop. Get the corner here a little easier. Stop. So the way I sharpen, if my knife needs a lot of work, then I'll do 6 like this, 6 straight on each side, and then 1, 2, 3. And then with this stroke, I have a soft side too. I'm sorry, smooth side. So I'll do 3 on this side too. See, there we go. It's ready. So I wear a safety glove. I'm a big advocate for safety gloves. I wear one now pretty much from carving anything. And these little caricature style guys, if I'm spoon carving. Lately I've been getting more into the cottonwood bark stuff. And I keep one on all the time. However, I don't wear a thumb guard anymore. I used to, but I didn't like them, and I've just been a little more careful with my thumb. But so you do you. Some people wear stuff like this, some people don't. I think you should. My bill to urgent care for stitches was, I think, $170. So these are like $12 or $15, so better deal. Alright, blocks outlined, knife sharp, we got our glove. Time to get busy on this. So, first thing we're going to do is from that once again, top to bottom. So from this very bottom line that we drew on to this line, the outside part of the square on the bottom, we're going to cut up to that. So I usually start from the corners, cut off. It doesn't have to be exact right away because we're going to go around it a couple times. So don't worry about chips or anything like that, because it does get cleaned up as we go. Doesn't have to be exact either. Alright, so we got those corners done. See that? That's what it should look like right now. So now we're going to take off, and I think I have a problem with, we're going to take off this next piece here. So what I do is I'll line my knife up with that line and drag it across. So I go right up to that line, right? And then you look at the bottom line that we were cutting from too. Come across there. And then just flatten it out. Easy. Make sense? And we're going to do that to all 4 sides. That's so nice when you have good basswood that cuts instead of, sometimes you get a batch and it's like super hard, carves like a rock. It's like the worst. I don't even know how many times I've like started carvings and it just ends up not being fun when it's that tough, and you just throw them away. It's like over it. Alright, so we got that. I don't do those water and alcohol mixtures to soften basswood up. Okay, so now kind of see if I can get this thing to focus what we're dealing with here. There. It's kind of in focus, kind of not. Good enough. So the next thing is, so the idea is that we're cutting this square. So this square is going to be elevated above everything else. So if you can see like what it ends up looking like there. So to do so, we're going to cut down. Now this is the only one of the cuts that kind of sucks, is cutting down with into blocks, but we're not going very far, so it's not too bad. So I go straight at the corner, you know, on a perpendicular for the corner, and I cut down. And once again, you're cutting down to where that line is, right? Cut there, and then come to the corner and go across. So your knife being really sharp is what helps this. If your knife is lacking at all in that, this is going to be harder. And as you can see with my first cut, I still didn't get it all the way. So once again, it's kind of a hard cut, so you may have to go a couple times. I do. There we go. So got that chip out. That thing needs to focus a little better. Anyway, so same thing for all 4 corners. One more. Actually, so that's pretty clean so far. Let's just think focus on this. There we go. Pretty clean cuts, actually. So, the obvious next step is to take off these, right? Because then that's going to leave us with that square. So go right up to the line and down to where you're going with everything else. More stubborn. There we go. Not bad. Focus. Alright. So, we got the square cut out. Next thing I do, you don't have to, but since we're doing a round carving, I want this block to be a somewhat square. So I just knock the corners off. So I'm not worried about like an actual like round base, but like I said, just the corners, just a little bit, just the tip. And that's it. Good enough. I'm not too worried about cleanup on the base, but if you are, you can just kind of drag your knife across and that'll get a lot of that stuff off. Clean it up. But it's the bottom, so I'm not worried about it. Okay, next. So over this line up, that's going to be a line that we're going to V-cut into. You can go as deep or as shallow as you want. I've been going a little on the shallow side. So just a little cut, and then from the bottom up to it, and then same thing here. So all the way around. So the next part is to extend the V-cuts along the lengths of the block. So knife in. Now, never like force. You want to use your thumb to push it in, right? You know that? If you don't, now you do. There you go. And I find it easier to do the bottom up and then top down, because if you go top down and it slips, it breaks, and you cut this whole piece off, and that sucks. So bottom up first gives you a little bit better of a stop cut when you do it. Probably just jinxed myself, but you know. Alright, once again, push in from the bottom up to the line. Take that out. And sometimes when you get that where there's a bunch of stuff in there, you just go back, do the cut one more time. Just easy though, so you don't lose a lot of wood, but it cleans it up so it looks good. Alright, so here's where we're at. Coming along. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is start working on the rounding off process. So remember those side lines from here and here? I'm going to take off this whole chunk. Those whole big corners, gone. Watch out, buddy. Move. Move. Go lay down. Good boy. So just like this, knife in. See how it's cut from one line to the other? Do that all the way around. Alright, so when you get the bottom, do the top, same deal. So if you get a piece that kind of does that tearing thing or rips it off, so you got a little bit there, it came off cleaner than I expected, but if you just take your knife and just kind of just drag it very gently, it'll get that stuff off and give you a clean looking cut. Alright, back to the other ones. See, same thing happened to me again. So just drag it. Whoops, there we go. So, as you can see from the top down, roundish, not quite round, getting there. Not square anyway, all the way around. So, let's go back and fix this bottom piece again. So from here, I'm going to do what would be one cut into three just because it kind of helps round it. So once again, from the bottom up to that little thing, that little V cut. Same thing on this side. And then one in the middle. And we're going to go, after that, we're going to go all the way around and make sure things are rounded off. Try a different way. Let's go. There we go. So I like that way better. So we're doing the middle first, then the sides. Kind of wish I'd made this a higher skirt this time. I thought about it, but I don't know. Maybe for the next one I do. So once again, roundish. Alright, the next thing I'm going to do is draw these lines back on. These were my lines for the little swoop part of the top of, I don't know, the ghost hat. Not sure what it's called. Ghost hat? Is that a thing? So, same deal. These are going to be V-cuts. In pretty deep for this one. Down to it. Same thing. We're going to go on the other side. And then across. Makings of the top part of the ghost. So after we have that, I like to taper this over to it, and I don't have any kind of set way, so it's just purely based on what you end up liking. just kind of pick a point lower than here, even with there, whatever, and just cut that off, right? So just take that off, over to it. Now, when you're doing this, if you look from the top, you can tell if the sides are even as well as the back. Bring it up. You don't have to go all the way, but a good amount, more than half, is what ends up looking good. And kind of just like taper this. There we are. Alright, next thing we need on this guy is some eyes. And this is another thing that you can kind of do them however you want. The way I'm going to do them is I'm going to draw a big line from the bottom of where the taper is for the top. I'm going to draw that guy over all the way to there. So it's going from this line to this line and across. So that's going to be the top of my eyes. So I know I've got my center line and I know where my top of my eyes are. So I'm going to be about the same size and I want them to be kind of big. So I'm going to go, so basically if you imagine this whole area being an eye, so this whole spot here, one on each side, you're going to go that distance down. So think about if you're drawing an actual square, and then inside that square is going to be your eye. So maybe I'm going to go about here. So that's close enough. And then from there, you just draw circles. So I do little V guys first for the bottom and the top of the eyes, going out, and then just draw a circle. Once again, as big or as small. If you want them different shapes, you can do that. Do it however you want it. You do one big, one small. Either way, that's what we ended up with for now. Now at this point, I would recommend using your strop again. It may not need it, but if we're going to cut the eyes out, we want our knife as sharp as we can possibly get it. So once again, just that's 2, 3, same thing on this side. So with strops, I know some people swear by the smooth side, some people swear by the rough side. I think the rough side's probably more popular. And when I was starting all this, I didn't really know, so I just started using both with this method, rough and smooth. Kind of made sense to me, and I just sort of stuck with it, so that's what I do. I have no special reasoning for it, other than I don't know if that's the best way to do it or not. Okay, so what I like to do is I'll go in and cut those little V lines that I drew in first, just because I'm not good at that when it comes to cutting. So that gives me stopping and ending points for this next step. And so you find, you cut and try to go a little deep, but not super deep. If you have a detail knife at home and you switch that will probably work a little easier. But keep in mind, with these type of forceful curving cuts, you might break the tip off your knife. So I've broken tips off several knives. I think it's probably a pretty common thing to do. But either way, drag it, follow it around, go slow to make sure you get it right. Going slow is one thing I struggle with, and I end up messing carvings up because of it. Hope you can see what I'm doing. Alright, so we've done a cut. straight in, so straight in and all the way around the eyes. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take that cut out, relieving it. So we're going to go at it again. So instead of going straight, we're going to come on this side of the eye a little bit angled, stab in, and you start taking that little tiny bit out. Once again, go slow. There's no rush. It's carving. It's supposed to be enjoyable and relaxing. The deeper you go, the more shadows you'll have, the better it'll look. Looks like I chipped out a little bit. Well, let's see. I was yakking and not paying attention to what I was doing, but it's alright. Yakking? Who says that? I'm just doing a little bit of cleanup on those cuts a little bit. Okay, so once we have our eyes more or less cut out, I'm gonna round them. You don't even really have to do that. I just think it looks a little better with the paint, but once again, you can totally skip this part and it'll look good. And if you have a little brush, that helps get some of the fuzzies out, so you can kind of see what you're working with. So, one of the things about getting really clean cuts is there's going to be little imperfections you can't see until you're going to take that up close, super close picture for your Instagram. And then there it is. Alright. I think that's probably good enough. So the next thing I want to do is I want to get rid of all these lines that I have. So for that, it's pretty simple. I'm just going to put the knife on and just kind of very gently skim it to take that off. Don't go too deep because you'll lose part of your eyes. Get that off there. And once again, see, I'm not using this hand to push the knife, I'm using this thumb to push the blade across. Get way more control. There's where we're at. So, let's start rounding that part off. If you know what the little swoop in a ghost hat gown thing's called, let me know. leave me a comment. Tell me what it's called. Alright, so I'm going to go from the top of the eyes back. So I don't have any kind of set thing for this, I just sort of taper it. So from the top of the eyes, get a nice big cut. Same way over here. So, you see there, like that. So, not too far, but it's definitely there. And same thing from the back. So as you can see, we still have lines everywhere here, but we're going to get to those in a little bit. I just like to get the eyes out of the way. then when you do that, you get these sharp corners. Let's take those off too. You know, always try to keep things round if you can. And there we go. So from here, we're going to take off this guy, this corner here, by cutting down and then over without leaving those tear marks, hopefully. Same thing on this side. Okay, now I want to start rounding this off. And then you can pop those little corners off there. So once again, we're not making a ball, but it does have to look a little like a folded over sheet, right? Let's see, I want to cut that in just a little bit more. And there we go. All I did was do some cuts to remove anything sharp points on that side, and there we are. So I do want to get rid of these lines now. Oh, it's tearing bad on this side. Let me see if I can do that again, actually. Hold on. Yeah, let's tear it. Alright, so see how it tore on me? I hope that's in focus enough for you to see it. So take my knife, just very gently drag it, and it gets those fuzzy parts off. Because we're not doing big cuts here, just kind of taking it. That one is pretty rough though. It's going to make the whole thing uneven, I think. There, not too bad. See, back to smooth. If you don't remove the lines, like if you forget and then you go to paint your carving, it's gonna smear the pencil marks, or you'll just be able to see it under the paint. If you're doing like a light stain type paint, it just doesn't look that good. So I've made that mistake before where I forgot and I get in a hurry, and there you go. There's a little bit of fuzzy, so get this off. Alright, no more pencil marks anywhere on it. So what's left is we're going to start rounding them off a little bit. I like to taper from the eyes down. Once again, you can make the shape of the ghost however you want them. If you want them completely round, you want a little bubble guy, however you want it. So I just kind of come up a little bit and down. And as we're doing this, it's rounding it at the same time. So rounding it and getting rid of like this big V mark here from earlier. And then whatever kind of cleanup you got to do, since we're dragging down, you're going to have a lot of like fuzzy marks on here. So you just go back around, you know, light little cuts, just enough to get rid of that stuff. And it's going to end up looking good. Alright, my camera stopped there, but I think we've got a good amount done. For the skirt part, of the carving. I was doing some little V-cuts in there, and it's kind of cool. You don't have to, but it adds a little bit to it. I was initially going to skip it for this carving, but I'll show you how I did it. So, you know, we don't like straight lines, right? We like everything to be a little off. It adds a little character. So you go here, turn your knife so it's not a straight-on cut, angle it, and then it's just a little V-cut. And just do a couple. You know, you can do them different angles to show some flow. Imagine it all stemming from the inside of the carving, the inside of the character rather. Ooh, a big old piece cut. That's alright. And there's a piece I gotta clean up. Different schools of thought. I've heard people say that you should do your cleanup as you go, and I've heard other people say do it at the end to make sure it's right. So I don't know, you know, I do it both ways, whatever I'm feeling at the time. Once again, it's your carving. You can do it however you want. That's one of the things that's so cool about this stuff. All right, maybe one more. And there we go. We got the skirt part done. I wish I would have rounded that off more before I did that, but we're all good. Okay. Alright, so the carving part is pretty much done. I started putting mouse on these guys. The first couple I didn't have them on there. I did maybe 4 or 5 of these guys before I landed on this for the tutorial. And my daughter, actually, Maya, told me to put mouse on them. I did one, I tried it, and I was like, wow, that's really cool. So I use the corners of the eyes as our benchmarks, and because we did real big eyes, we're going to have a real big mouth, and it's going to look super good. So just pick a spot, not too far down. You know, you can draw little corners on there so you know where your ending marks are for the corners of your mouth. And then it doesn't have to be a smiley face. It can be a frowning face. It can be straight across. You know, you can do it however you want, like I keep saying. So I actually want to come down a little bit more, I think. There we go. So yeah. And this is just a regular old, you know, V-cut for this. Stab your knife in. This is definitely one that the deeper the better, because that's how you get your shadows. So as you can see, I'm going in, if you can't see, I'm going in pretty deep with my knife. And up. And then the same thing on the other side, same angle, stab, super deep. Take that little piece out. And there we go. Now I am going to give him a little bit of a corners for his mouth. Just kind of come down. You can make, once again, there's another thing, you can make as big or as small as you want. So for this, go up to where the corner of the mouth is, stab in real deep, drag it down a little bit, and then go over here, stab back down, and pop it out. So, and then take your knife, kind of like, there we go. You want to taper this bottom piece into that, and back up. So let's do this other one. So in, breathe deep, up to the mouth. And there we go. Anyway, there we go. He looks pretty happy. He's a happy little ghost, ready for Halloween. And that's it. We're all done. As you can see, it looks pretty cool. I'm not going to worry about painting him in the video. You just paint him white. That's not very hard to figure out something intricate about it. If you water it down, don't water it down too much. You could go full white on this, no problem. With the eyes, they're just black, full black. No dilution there. On this one I did so full white, full black, and then little tiny dots in the eyes. not hard to figure out, and that was it. I put little polka dots on him too, kind of like, you know, maybe a kid that got into mom sheets, but then became a ghost because he floats, right? Anyway, that's gonna do it for this one. I hope this is fun for you for Halloween. I know it's not exactly right around the corner, but I want to get an early start on it. So I slacked off last year on Halloween carvings, and I'm not gonna do that this year because I like Halloween better than just about any other holiday. Anyway, that's gonna do it for me. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you next time.